Today's episode is brought to you by Underdog Sports. For all of your daily fantasy needs, just scan that QR code there in the corner of the screen. Underdog, make picks and win money. Huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy. Welcome to Commanders Daily, everybody. I'm Bob Matthews. This is your one-stop shop for everything going on with the Burgundy and Gold. We are delighted that you're with us. Give us a like and subscribe so you don't miss a day of the action. So as you can see from our first headline, one of the big players in the defensive coordinator sweepstakes is now off the board. Jonathan Gannon, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, is going to Green Bay to be the Packers' new DC. Again, what you're seeing here is another guy who, whether DC is perhaps a step down because they're just coming off of a head coaching gig, or some sort of a lateral move with an upgrade in personnel, they're not picking Washington. I think that says something about Washington's the perception of Washington's personnel on defense and why Adam Peters has got a lot of work to do here in the offseason. So you have Gannon that's passed. Brian Flores decided to re-sign in Minnesota. Jeff Ulbrich decided to re-sign in Atlanta. What does that say about what they think of Washington's defensive personnel? Probably not a whole lot. They figure they're better off where they are, and as opposed to, making a jump. Where does that leave the Commanders? Well, they're in an interesting spot. Now, there is still a defensive coordinator out there that's interested in the job and that the Commanders are interested in, and that's Terrell Austin. They'd like to have somebody that's got play calling experience, especially since, given the fact that on the offensive side of the ball, David Blau is going to be calling plays for the first time ever. So, what does that mean? Well, Terrell Austin was the defensive coordinator for Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin steps down. Obviously, Austin's looking for a new gig. So he has had an interview, and I think that they're hoping that he would be that he will take it. Some of the other guys, if they can't land Austin, then you really are looking at guys who are kind of the next tier, guys that haven't called plays before, guys like Durante Jones. He's the Vikings passing game coordinator. So he's either been interviewed or is going to be interviewed, depending on how you view some of these reports that come out. We talked about Al Harris last weekend. Same thing. Defensive backs and the passing game coordinator coach. Carl Scott is another name that you're hearing a lot about. But again, he's Seattle's defensive backs coach. We will have to see in the days and weeks ahead how available he is going to be. But again, never called defensive snaps before. And again, when you've got a guy that hasn't on the offensive side, do you really want that on the defensive side? Now, the fact that Dan Quinn used to be a defensive coordinator, again, that makes it a little bit easier. But it means that, it shows you again that there is some hesitation from some of these leading candidates to come here to D.C. because of the fact that I think they're not believing that Washington's got the horses right now on defense to get this thing done next year, and they're not sure how much of an upgrade the personnel department can make in the offseason. That's on Adam Peters. All right, got to tell you about Underdog Sports. Underdog is the place to go now that the postseason is not only in full swing, but we are headed towards Super Bowl Sunday. And Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing Underdog is easy. You just pick your favorite players, and then you got to decide two things. Do they go higher or lower than the number on the screen, on the stats? And I'm talking stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, all that kind of stuff. Get those right, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. Now, it's easy. Just, again, that QR code there in the corner of the screen, scan that, go to the App Store, download the Underdog app, use the promo code FootballFan, and you're going to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, promo code FootballFan. Underdog. Make picks, win money. And now, of course, we got to tell you this.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-878 or text Commys 467-369.
Always got to have the legal disclaimer in there. All right, Anthony Lynn is one of the Commander's current assistants, has got an interview with the Browns for their head coaching job. Of course, we all know the Browns. The Browns fired Kevin Stefanski. Lynn's interview, this is according to Josina Anderson. She was reporting over the weekend that Lynn completed an in-person interview with the Browns. It was his first interview with Cleveland. So Anthony Lynn now has had interviews with Cleveland and Buffalo. Again, a guy that I am sure, given the fact, the lack of experience on the offensive side of the ball, coaching-wise, with the play calling, I'm sure they would love to have Anthony Lynn back to be that, kind of veteran calming presence there with David Blau and the kids. But, good for Anthony Lynn, for even if it is Cleveland, getting a look as a head coach. Again, I don't think that I think the Buffalo thing is a real long shot for him. As I really think they're gonna go after Joe Brady hard, their offensive coordinator, who has worked with Josh Allen, of course. But hey, Cleveland, who knows? With the Haslams, you never know what's going to happen. I've got my fingers crossed, though, that Lynn will come back for another year in D.C. All right, tell me what you think in the mailbag of these current candidates, whether it's Austin or one of those other assistants for defensive coordinator. Drop us something in the comment section, and we will read it tomorrow. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you on Tuesday. And like the wise man once said, if you're out on your bike tonight, as always, do wear white.